Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Bournemouth Üniversitede Psikoloji Yüksek Lisans programlarını Nuria, Emily, Shanti ve Talya'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Nuria, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Zainab, and hello to everyone, and welcome to Bournemouth University webinar. Today, we are going to introduce our master programs in the area of psychology, and I am very pleased to welcome today two of our senior academics from the psychology department, Dr. Shanti Shankar, who is the program leader for Foundations of Clinical Psychology, and also Dr. Emily Arden-Close, who is the program leader for the Health in Psychology. I am also pleased to welcome our alumna, Talia, and who has studied with us a few years ago the foundations of clinical psychology, and she will be talking to you later on about her experiences as a Bournemouth University student, but also as working in the UK as she is currently does. We have prepared actually, I should introduce myself as well. My name is Nuria, and I work in the international department as a regional manager. Um, and today we have prepared a presentation for you. I'm going to show my slides in a second. And just one thing about the platform. Whilst I am sharing the slides, I am unable to see your questions. And so I will be basically just the only thing I can see is the presentation. But in the platform, you will see in the right-hand side, you have the question chat. So please feel free to ask any questions, and we will pick up those at the end of the presentation. So just bear with me whilst I am sharing this. Mm, okay. Can someone actually confirm that they can see the presentation?
We can see the presentation, but it's not in the full presentation mode yet. Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, that is lovely. Thank you. So for all of you that don't know the university and where we are located in the south coast of England, as you can see in the map. In the left-hand side, we are located in Bournemouth, in the Dorset area, and Bournemouth is a small town with a population of over 185,000 people. It's very popular as a first choice destination, and attracts quite a lot of people nationally, but also internationally, and is very famous for its 12 kilometers of sandy beaches, and it has the beauty surrounding areas of Dorset as well. It's a very cosmopolitan international town, and it has plenty of entertainment to offer for our students. There is shopping centers, restaurants. If you are into water sports, um, you just need to be aware that Bournemouth offers you the opportunity to do any water sports activities as well. It's what we call like a university town. We can describe Bournemouth itself. The location is very good. It's only 2 hours far away from London by train or by coach. And also we have our own international airport, and with flight destinations to major destinations to in Europe, and also some part in Turkey, usually the tourist destinations in Turkey. So in terms of university, what we were established in 1992 as a specialist and professional-oriented university, and what it means is that we make sure that we work with employers, we listen to the industry, and we ensure that when we build our programs, our students have the opportunity to develop the skills that employers are looking for. So the majority of our programs offer some practicality as well, and undergraduate, all our programs at master level, the majority of our programs as well, they will have an element of work experience as well. During the last few years, we have invested more than £250 million in our facilities, in our buildings, and in our academia. If you decide to join Bournemouth University, you will be studying the psychology programs at Talbot campus. You can see some of the pictures in the left-hand side about Talbot. And it's also the home of all our undergraduate courses and most of our postgraduate and research programs. Lansdowne campus is located in the town center. It's only 5 minutes far away from the beach, but it's usually the home for all the Faculty of Science and Social Sciences, and also the business school. Bournemouth is a medium-sized university. We have 17,500 students in total, 2,800 at international, and they are coming from over 135 different countries. So it's very international. And from Turkey, we have like over 100 students, and our postgraduate programs in psychology tend to have quite a lot of interest from Turkish students. So we have a quite big number of students in those programs. In terms of the national rankings, we have done very well in recent years, and last year we went 26 places up according to the Times Good University Guide, also 17 places up in the Guardian University Guide. When we are looking at the table, we are 56 in the ranking, and from 120 UK universities. Looking at the world ranking, Bournemouth University is the top 400 universities, and also the top 70 young universities in the world under the 50 years of age. So those are the programs that we are going to look at, and Dr. Shandi will be introducing the clinical and developmental neuropsychology and the foundations of clinical psychology. And Dr. Emily will be introducing the health psychology, the investigative forensic psychology, connective neurosciences, and psychology. In terms of entry criteria at Bournemouth University, most of the programs in psychology are specialist programs. So what it means is that you need a bachelor's degree in psychology or in relevant background with specific grades. If you are from Turkey, usually we will request a GPA of 2.5 to 2.7, but it will depend on the program that you are studying at the university. And the program that you will study here at Bournemouth University as well. Apart from the academic entry criteria, obviously you need an English qualification, and usually is the IELTS 6.5 for most of our programs. Apart from the foundations in clinical psychology, it is IELTS 7 with specific grades or scores in the other elements. And or it could be the equivalent. It could be the American system, the TOEFL or the Pearson. Or if you are studying in Turkey, a bachelor's degree in English, graduated within 2 years of starting at Bournemouth University, we will consider your English qualification as well. But there are certain things that we need to look at first. For some of the programs, sometimes we invite the students for an interview. Dr. Shanti and Dr. Emily can give you some more advice later on about this, but just to give you some head ups for the health in psychology is a bachelor's degree is a master's degree that is accredited by the British Psychology Society. So we usually request students to have a bachelor's degree that is accredited by the BPS, which is the British Psychology Society in the UK. And because obviously Turkish students or international students, they don't have this accreditation, Dr. Emily will probably have an interview with you just to tell you about different things about the program. And then the programs are 12 months length. All psychology courses start in September. But also the clinical psychology or the foundations in clinical psychology starts in September and in January. So you have 2 starters for that program. The tuition fees for all our postgraduate courses in psychology are 14,750. The living cost we estimate to be between 12,000 to 14,000, but it could be higher or lower. This is only an estimation, and this includes the accommodation. The total cost that you need to prepare just to study in the UK for 1 year is 27,000 approximately. Well, it's to study at Bournemouth University. Other universities, this will be much higher or much lower, depends on their fees and living costs, obviously. So this is about 570,000 Turkish liras, approximately. We recognize that education at Bournemouth is expensive in the UK in general, so we're trying to help our Turkish students as much as we can. And we have introduced the Academic Excellence Scholarship, and it's given to all the Turkish students that have achieved a GPA of 2.8. And this will be given to you automatically if you achieve this during your bachelor's degree. And you will get £3,500 scholarship or deduction in your fees. We also provide the opportunity scholarship of £1,000 to £1,500. This is not based in your academic background. And so you can also combine this scholarship with the Academic Excellence Scholarship. So in total, you can get up to £5,000 fees discount. So if you decide to join the university, you just need to be aware that to keep your place at the university and to get the documentation that you need to prepare your visa, you will need to pay £3,000 deposit. And if in terms of your to pay your fees, you can do it in 2 installments. So this is all from me. And I
Nuria,
think,
I have a question.
yes, of
Can you
course.
explain what is the opportunity scholarship? Because that was something that wasn't very clear if I was a student to understand who gets the opportunity scholarship or
Mm.
what's the criteria for that.
Thank you. Well, the opportunity scholarship is provided, depends on the student profile. It's not based in academic background, academic achievements. So basically, for our applicants, every year, this is not something that we even mention in our website because it's an internal budget. So sometimes when the students cannot get the Academic Excellence Scholarship and depends on their personal circumstances, we provide that kind of help. But we have limited numbers, so it's very competitive, obviously. If there is any of our applicants watching today and they have already um, um, the application with us and an offer, they will be interested in the opportunity scholarship, they can contact me directly. And what we do is we we will have a panel where we will be looking the personal statements and this explanations that the students are giving us why they think they deserve the opportunity scholarship, and we will provide it then some help, basically. But thank you, Shanti, um, for your question. I think it's really interesting, for the students to find out. So thank you. So the next slide is for you, Shanti, actually.
So thank you, Nuria, and welcome to all the students who are in. I can see a number of students who said hi on the chat. So hello and welcome. And just as I start, I've got one question from Surgeon Koka who says, what makes studying psychology masters in Bournemouth University different than other universities? So as Nuria had already started saying that it's one of the most beautiful town side because you have the sea. So if you're a sea person, definitely Bournemouth is the place for you to come in and stay. But other than that, from a psychology course perspective, we are a really good department. And one of the key elements, and I think Emily can support me in this, is all of our research and staff members are people who also practice research. So all the number of, we've got approximately 60 to 70 professors, senior lecturers within the University of Psychology. And all of us have to have active research. We have a lot of clinical psychologists and counselors who are part of the team. So you get taught by experts in their area. So for example, I am training to be a counseling psychologist, and I teach a lot on the clinical psychology and neuropsychology modules where I work with patients. So I actually bring in hands-on experience into my lectures. So that is something that I think we pride upon within Bournemouth Psychology. And the other element why we are good is because all of our students, we try to give them as much as work experience. And also our courses are tailored with employability in mind. So we do try to ensure that students have employable skills beyond psychology when they graduate and they can find jobs for themselves. So I think that answers the question. And coming into my slide, so I am one of the program leaders within psychology, and I lead on the foundations of clinical psychology, which is a 1-year master's degree. And I'm sure all of you know what clinical psychology is, but for those of you who are still working towards your way to understand clinical psychology, we do know that it involves a various number of things, including assessments, diagnosis, and treatments, and looking at different psychological perspectives and health across lifespan of children, adults, working adults, and old age. So we cover the whole spectrum within the clinical psychology masters. Next slide, please. So what is this 1-year masters that we offer? So the masters in clinical psychology, as I was just telling Nuria before we started, is aimed towards a more academic kind of a master's course. So unlike a doctorate in clinical psychology in UK that provides you with clinical experience and hands-on therapeutic experience, we do not offer that as part of our course. The course is more inclined towards introducing you to a detailed element of clinical psychology. So we are a course which has 2 core units, which is the psychological roots and ranges of psychological disorders, which runs between September and December, with exams somewhere in January. And the second core unit that we have is psychological therapy, which again runs from February till May. So as Nuria said, my course is one of the courses that has September and January starters. So if you come in January, semester 2 psychological therapy will be your semester 1, if that makes sense. So these are the 2 core units. And then we have 2 other units, which is advanced research methods and advanced statistics. So the advanced research method talks about different research skills that you need to have. It includes clinical as well as qualitative, as well as cognitive methods. You can understand and learn about how to use it, how to do research in clinical domains, and how to actually use that from a clinical perspective. Advanced statistics is again a core skill. So when you do masters in UK, you're expected to have a basic idea of statistics. We are not training you to be masters in statistical programming, but you should be able to look at a clinical paper and decide whether the paper is good enough. Does what they claim to be is actually true, yes or no? So that's the kind of skill you learn with advanced statistics. So again, the advanced research method runs from September to January, and advanced stats runs from February till May. You have dissertation, which runs between the 2 semesters. So normally when you start the course, if you start in September, then by end of October, you're assigned with a project supervisor. If you start the course in January, probably by end of February, early March, you would have had a supervisor. So you start working in your dissertation right from the first month that you come in and start planning on deciding whether you're doing a project, whether you're doing a research program, whether you're doing a qualitative study, whether you're doing a systematic review. You start planning that. So the dissertation is quite key because it runs across 2 semesters and it's got a large credit associated with it. More importantly, if you start in September, your program runs until August of that next year. Whereas if you start in January, you complete your program by end of January the following year. So you have summer period where you're expected to work on your dissertation. So again, if you decide to come in January to the Bournemouth University course, you need to be aware that you would want to think about your summer breaks and try to be in summer within Bournemouth rather than go back to Turkey. So these are things that you need to consider if you're applying for the January starters. If you are somebody who's weak in statistics, I would definitely urge you to apply for the September starters and not the January starters, because if you start in January, you directly jump into advanced statistics. And if you're not somebody who's confident with stats, I would advise you to start in September because it gives you some time to prepare into the system and understand the method of teaching much better. Across these units, our assessments are assessed through assignments, end of semester take-home exams. So both the roots and ranges and psychological therapy have an essay-like take-home exam at the end of the semester. Whereas we also have other coursework, which is role plays, which is writing a script, reflection, doing an oral presentation online, so on and so forth. So the coursework typically includes assessments, including writing reports, role play, psychotherapy. And research methods unit is assessed by 100% coursework, and so is the advanced statistics, where you again have an assignment and coursework. And you have weekly tests where you have to ensure that you engage with weekly or bi-weekly tests where you have to engage with the content. Next slide, please. So again, this academic year, that is September 2022, we have basically started offering placements. These placements are very competitive, and I cannot guarantee every student who wants to be placed will get a placement. We have a section of placements that we try to actually work and align with students' interest. So during these opportunities, you get a lot of voluntary positions that are available. So if we hear about any clinical psychologist who has good links with medical health and needs volunteers to help, we will advertise you. Sorry, that's my dog and somebody has come onto the door. So basically, you will hear some really good links or messages that come across, and we will ensure that you get an opportunity if there is a link. We actually have a lot of NHS psychologists who look for support from MSc students. So again, if you get a placement, you get a placement. But if you don't have a placement, if any opportunities come, we keep trying throughout the year to give you more research and clinical opportunities. Often, you get a chance to do some systematic review for a local NHS, or you get to sit and write therapy notes. It gives you some element of understanding what an experience in clinical psychology is. Unfortunately, very often you do not get direct experience to work or provide therapy. So these are some things that are really good opportunities, and make use of them. Any kind of work gives you some experience. And opportunities are therefore not guaranteed, but they are usually competitive, and we try our best to provide as much as opportunity as possible. Can I have the next question? Next slide, please. So when you complete your master's, the master's is designed to have a lot of career opportunities. So firstly, within UK, you are qualified to be an assistant psychologist if you've completed a 3-year degree, undergraduate degree in psychology. Though my master's, which is the MSc Clinical Foundation, is not accredited by the BPS, which normally very few courses are. So Emily will tell you more about it because her course is accredited, but mine is not. And most clinical psychology courses across UK universities are not really accredited. So you can work as an assistant psychologist. Having the master's gives you an additional focused interest into areas of psychological therapy, understanding disorders of bipolar disorders, anxiety disorders, depression, personality disorders, so on and so forth. And you can work as an assistant psychologist and not a psychologist. There's a question from Yesim that I can see, which is, can we work as a psychologist in UK after graduation? No, you cannot. Psychologist is a protected title in UK, and clinical psychology is again a protected title. So to call yourself a clinical psychologist, you have to do a doctorate in clinical psychology. And in order to practice as a psychologist, you need to have a clinical experience. So once you complete your master's, you could apply for doctorate in clinical psychology. So the doctorate in clinical psychology is a training that's offered within UK. Most often you have to have a UK citizenship to get it, but some certain universities provide it for international students. So if that's a stream that you're interested in, it's worth talking about it. Within the Roots and Ranges courses, we actually have somebody from the doctoral psychology training who comes in and gives you an idea of how to apply and what kind of routes to do. Myself being an international student, I talk to you all about how international students can go about getting a PhD or careers in psychology. So that is covered during the lectures. And you can apply for what is known as a psychological well-being practitioner or IAP positions within the NHS, which is valid, and you can work with that. You could decide to go on and pursue mental health nursing or become a counselor, again, which is a separate training, or work towards your PhD or clinical researcher. So when you do a master's, whether it's my master's, it's Rachel's master's, which is clinical and developmental neuropsychology, or any other psychology master's, these are the kind of ranges of career that you can do. It doesn't mean you will get a job. You have to compete yourself, you have to prove yourself, and you have to gain your experience to get it. It's very competitive within the UK system. Next slide, please. So psychology courses within the BU, especially what we offer, we do a lot of student support we give. So something that you often realize is that the whole department, undergraduate and postgraduate courses, are based in Talbot campus. As you can see the picture, it's a quite wide, well-established campus. We have a very good staff-student ratio. So you not only get your advisor who works with you, there's an academic advisor or your project supervisor who's working with you, but also your program leaders are normally aware of your progress, your interaction. So if I don't see a student coming into my class, or if I hear that attendance is weak, you will get an email from me saying, hey, I've not seen you, what's happening? So we do ensure that you engage with us and you actually interact with us to provide you the right support. We also have pastoral support and we have regular office hours. So I have 3 hours every week where I allot to students who want to come and talk to me, be it placement, be it struggling with a unit, be it exploring careers, whatever be the question, we're here to support you. Something that we started this year post-COVID is student well-being support. So undergraduate psychology, we have Maddie who leads on it. And for the masters, I lead on it. So every month we have an online session on Zoom, normally on a Friday evening or a Tuesday evening, which is termed as well-being session for 1 hour. So it's a Zoom call, or master students are invited, and actually gives you an opportunity to come and talk to us about exam stress, exam anxiety, how to be motivated, how to have resilience in academia, so on and so forth. So these are kind of academic related mental health issues that we talk, and we support each of you all to kind of work towards your well-being. Next slide, please. So we also have a lot of psychological labs and facilities. So we have dedicated computer labs. So if you want to work, you can do group assignments within these labs. You can book yourself into the library space or the beach hut in Subu, where you can sit down and work together as a team. There are teaching rooms that are exclusively used for seminars, especially for research methods and statistics. And if you are in MSc Clinical Foundations or in Rachel's course, we currently have changed the dissertation to become more of a project. It's MSc projects. So basically, you have a choice to work with a cognitive topic or a clinically aligned topic if your supervisor has got a topic that's of interest to you. So I know students who've used transmagnetic stimulation, the TMS, to work with attention deficit disorders, for example. We have specialist resources. We have access to online survey platforms. So another really good way to do your project is do online surveys or questionnaires, because that is easy to collect data and work your way towards your project. And also we have a lot of 24/7 computer labs available for both at Lansdowne and at the Talbot campus that you can access to. So thank you. Next slide, please. So one of the pride that we have within Bournemouth University, or the topic that you would, or the word that you would hear, is fusion. So fusion is basically integrating research, professional practice, and teaching. So something that we thrive within Bournemouth University, and all of us in Bournemouth University thrive, is integrating research and our professional practice into teaching. So it's a constant interaction of bringing what we do professionally into teaching, bringing the state-of-art research methods into teaching. We work with local NHS services, and that enhances the teaching experience of students. So next slide, please. We also have the research assistant scheme. So with placements, you can either opt for a clinical placement or you can opt for research assistant programs, where you get a chance to actually work with one of the lecturers who does research. So you get to collect literature reviews, you get to design paradigms, you get to collect and analyze data. All of that actually gives you valuable work experience. It also enhances your research skills. You might sit and think, I'm interested in clinical psychology. Why should I be bothered about research? If you're going to be working with people, you need to know that that is empirical work. If I'm seeing 10 patients every week in complex trauma, there's something that I can pull out of a research if I see 100 patients over 6 months. That can be enhanced to a qualitative research that you're doing, which you can't do if you don't have your research skills. So therefore, even if you're a clinical psychologist, research and statistics are equally important. And it could lead to future collaborations with professional people when you do research. So next slide, please. So that's the end of my master's course that I was rattling around. I'll go on to the next slide, which is the Clinical and Developmental Neuropsychology MSc. This is led by Rachel Mosley, whose photo is not here, but she's one of the best colleagues that I've known and is amazing in her work. And she does a lot of areas of work in autism. That's her specialty as a researcher. And this clinical and developmental neuropsychology led by Rachel talks about a lifespan approach to brain function from childhood and beyond. It is taught by researchers who are experts in their field, with contributions both from clinical, educational professionals, and speakers who have lived experience of some neurodiversity disorders. Again, Rachel offers placements in clinical education and research settings. So the placement module is shared between Rachel and me. So I manage the placement for my master's, whereas Rachel manages it for her course. But we talk to you together when we discuss about research placements or clinical placements. Previous students who have completed a course have worked on as assistant psychologists. They have become trainee clinical psychologists. I know one student who graduated 2 years ago, got a straight entry into working with the NHS, also managed to get a doctorate in clinical psychology position, and she's currently in her final year of a doctorate. And we have research assistants and PhD researchers and people who actually work with mental health and SEN support. So within that neuropsychology masters, we have different modules. So you have neurodevelopmental disorders, which is a module that focuses on neurodevelopmental diversity, talks about the importance from that perspective. You then have clinical and cognitive neuropsychology. You have aging and neurodegenerative disorders. You have the research and statistical skills. So you have the same modules that you have, which is advanced research methods and advanced statistics. And you have another module that's called transferable skills for workplace. So these are the key areas that she offers in the course. Very often we get questions from students, how is my clinical psychology course in Foundations in Clinical Psychology different from clinical and developmental neuropsychology? So in clinical and developmental neuropsychology MSc, the focus is more about the brain, neuropsychological development, aging, neurodegenerative disorders, autism, so on and so forth. And those who want to do developmental and clinical neuropsychology masters end up working in research as well as clinical positions. Whereas the MSc Clinical Foundations is mostly focused more on psychological disorders. So the emphasis is there is a bit of brain. I teach on my course, I talk about stroke and dementia, but most of the emphasis is on understanding psychological disorders like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, so on and so forth. And the other focus is on therapeutic methods. So the psychological therapy talks about CBT, dialectic behavior therapy, EMDR, compassion-based ACT, which is compassion-based therapies. So mindfulness, so on and so forth. So the focus is more psychological in the clinical foundation, whereas the clinical and developmental psychology, it's both clinical and research focused with a bit more focus on brain and neuropsychology. So that's the end of my spiel. Emily, I think you could take over and we could answer the questions at the end so that we are on time, if that makes sense, and I can look at some of the questions.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. So just checking everyone can hear me.
Yes, very much loud and clear.
Wonderful. So I'm Emily Arden-Close and I'm the program leader for the MSc in Health Psychology. So the MSc in Health Psychology is our only accredited program in our department. So it's accredited by the British Psychological Society as providing stage 1 training in health psychology, which means if you complete our MSc, you would be able to go on to stage 2 training as a health psychologist. Because of that, we do interview our international students, because to go on beyond stage 1, you would need to have an accredited undergraduate degree. There is a process by which you can apply to the British Psychological Society for your undergraduate degree in Turkey to be accredited. So we talk about that on the MSc Health Psychology program. But equally, if anyone wants to do one of the other programs, but they want to get their undergraduate degree accredited with they're accredited with the British Psychological Society, then come and see me about that once you come to study. So you might be asking about what is health psychology? Well, it looks at people's experience of health and illness and helping people to live healthy lives. You are taught by lecturers who are experts in their field. So, for example, we have a lecturer who's got expertise in stress and health and the influence of stress on health, and they talk about stress and health across the lifespan. Have another lecturer with expertise in eating behavior, and she takes a course on health-related cognitions, behaviors and beliefs. So that's about looking at health behavior change. And I do research on experience of living with chronic illness. So I've done research on cancer and asthma. And what might be quite interesting to you, I've also done some research on Behçet's disease, so experience of medication experience in Behçet's disease. So I'm aware it's a condition that's much more common in Turkey than it is in the UK, autoimmune disease. And I've looked at people's experiences of how they manage their medication. There was a question about what makes our MSCs unique at Bournemouth University. So I can answer for the MSc Health Psychology. One thing is we offer a placement, a compulsory placement. It has to be a minimum of a week, can be longer, and that can be in a clinical, public health or research setting. And to give an example of some placements we've done, some people have been able to do placements around around children's clinical psychology, working with clinical psychologists. One of our current students did a placement in an addiction rehabilitation charity and an addiction rehabilitation centre, and he enjoyed it so much he's now still working there as a volunteer. Lots of clinical placements which people tend to enjoy, and I say a minimum of a week, but in practice people tend to want a longer placement. So we do have one course which is shared across most of the other MSCs, not the MSc Foundations of Clinical Psychology, which is called Key Transferable Skills. So this involves skills around writing concisely, around writing grant applications. So it's very useful skills. I mean, obviously, in the MSc Foundations of Clinical Psychology, you're also covered. You learn things like how to write concisely, but it's quite a nice course to have to teach you a range of useful skills. So health psychology MSc. So that's probably about it now for the MSc Health Psychology. I'm happy to answer questions in the chat later. Nuria, next slide, please. Okay, so I'll now talk about the Investigative Forensic Psychology MSc. So this is run by my colleague Terry Cole. She's an amazing person, incredibly enthusiastic, and she worked as a behavioural investigative advisor with the police for many years before joining Bournemouth University. So she's got a lot of practical as well as theoretical experience. So just to give you a brief introduction to this course, it covers all aspects of investigative psychology from the crime scene to the courtroom. So it's about working with police. And in addition to the programme leader, they have a range of guest speakers and colleagues who have experiences with working in serious crime investigations. So, for example, around murder, sexual offending, or group offending. There's also excellent employability within this course. So people work as police officers, detectives, crime analysts, and they work around safeguarding and in courts. So for the MS, okay, so this course does cover quite a range of interesting topics. It covers investigative psychology, face processing, looking at offenders, suspects, witnesses and victims. Professional practice and court skills is another unit. So you'd learn all about court processes. And a more general thing to say about most of our MSc project courses is that they involve a research project. So you get to work on a research project over the entire year on a course of your own, on a topic of your own interest. And at least in the health psychology, I can say, you're usually quite likely to get a supervisor whose interests agree with yours. So it's a really good opportunity to explore a topic of your own interest in depth. And that's one part that people tend to really enjoy. Nuria, next slide, please. Okay, we also have a master's in cognitive neuroscience, which is run by another colleague of mine, Hannah Buryanova. And again, Hannah is an amazing person. She's so enthusiastic. You're all going to love her if you choose to do this course. So this course, it has maybe some similarities with the clinical and developmental neuropsychology course, but the difference is that clinical and developmental neuropsychology is much more applied, whereas cognitive neuroscience tends to be quite a theoretical course, which you'd use mainly if you're planning to go on to do a PhD or work as a researcher in cognitive neuroscience. So it looks at biology underlying cognition, so thoughts and feelings, and it examines the neural connections in the brain involved in mental processes. So you learn quite a lot about how to conduct cognitive neuroscience research. So you'd learn about how to do things such as magnetic resonance imaging, electroencephalography, and transcranial magnetic stimulation. So a range of interesting topics, much more theoretical course. But as I say, if you're interested in any of these cognitive neuroscience research techniques, you can still learn about them briefly, and you can still take a research assistant post through our voluntary research assistant scheme, which would enable you to learn about these processes. So that's that for now. So if you could move to the next one, please. Great. So our last MSc I'm going to talk about, it's an MSc in psychology. This might be less relevant to you because it's not for people who have if you have an undergraduate degree in psychology, you don't need to do this course. So it's undergoing accreditation to receive graduate basis for chartership from the British Psychological Society. So it provides a 1-year introduction to psychology, and it might be useful for someone who's maybe done a joint honours degree in psychology, so their degree does not have enough psychology content to enable them to do a psychology MSc, but they're interested in pursuing a career in psychology. So you'll learn about the core areas of psychology, such as cognition and language, social psychology and individual differences, developmental and applied psychology, biological psychology, and research methods. So you'd have to conduct a research project, you'd learn about statistics and research methods, as well as key areas of psychology. And it is the first step towards a range of careers in psychology. So if you, for example, hadn't done an undergraduate degree in psychology and you wanted to be a clinical psychologist, or you wanted to be a health psychologist, you would first need to do this course. So I think that's it from me for now. So thank you very much. And I'll hand over now to Talia. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so Talia will be able to share the screen.
Let me try sharing. Okay. Can you all see it?
No, Talia.
No. Try again. It says I don't have the authorization. Which is interesting. Let me try this. How about now? No. No, it's not letting me.
Okay.
Are you using Chrome browser, Talia?
Yeah.
Okay, that's strange.
It says you're using a Mac and you don't have the authorization. But I emailed the presentation
your computer settings.
I've actually used Mac, so I didn't have a problem with it.
Talia, I have your presentation. If you want me to share the screen and you go through there, yeah. But just bear in mind the rest of the, our audience today that I haven't been able to see the questions whilst I am sharing my screen. So, but I think Emily and Shanti and Talia, you've been very kind just answering some of the questions. No, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm trying to find your presentation, Talia.
In the meantime, I'm just going to make a brief introduction in Turkish. Merhaba arkadaşlar, ben Talia. 3 yıl önce mezun oldum Bournemouth Üniversitesi'nden. Şimdiki sunumumu İngilizce yapacağım ama sorularınız varsa İngilizce yazarsanız herkes anlayabilir. Sunum sonrasında da soruları yanıtlayacağız. Teşekkürler. Okay.
Sorry, it's taking a while. You have a big presentation with a lot of pictures, Talia.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm sure that the students will love to see Bournemouth and you. Okay.
We can move on to the second slide as well. Yeah. And that one too.
Okay, this one?
Yeah. So, as I said, I've completed the Master's in Foundations of Clinical Psychology back in 2019. So it's been about 3 years now. At the time when I applied for the course, I initially spoke to Nuria, and I was eligible for the Executive Dean Scholarship, which gave me 50% of my fees, which is unfortunately not available anymore. But that gave me the chance to come to BU via the scholarship. Nuria, you can open the other slides as well. You can move on to the other ones because it has some bits.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But as Nuria mentioned, you can access the Academic Excellence Scholarship, which is automatically given with the offer letter that comes in an email format, £3,500 if your GPA is 2.8 and above. And of course, there are other scholarships available, like music and sports scholarships, which you can check the website as well. Yeah. Next slide.
Next one.
Please. In terms of my experience during my studies and after my studies, as Shanti mentioned, although we didn't have the placement option available for clinical psychology, I was able to get a placement with the Personality Disorders Service in Branksome Pool via Helen, who was our program leader at the time. So initially, the placement was offered for 6 months, but I did it for 1.5 years because I really enjoyed it, and I'm still in touch with them. So you can do that, and that picture is from that, but you can move to the other pictures, Nuria. So that in addition to that, during my studies, I did the student ambassador role as part of Bournemouth University. So I was in a way doing presentations, talking to Turkish students about uni, visiting Turkey as well, and that gave me a lot of transferable skills, definitely. I was on BBC South the other day talking about mental health as well, so definitely you'll have all these opportunities after you finish your course. And also definitely looking at the research side of things. We've also had the opportunity to work with one of our lecturers, and I also worked with Helen for a mindfulness research during my studies. Although I didn't have a documentation, Helen just reassured me that after I finished my degree, she would provide reference, which she did, which landed me on the role I'm currently in now, which I'll be talking about shortly. The role I'm in currently is with one of the mental health charities, Mind. So I'm working as a team leader, and I'm managing currently 10 practitioners who are out in the field in GP surgeries across Dorset, working with people with mild to moderate mental health problems. And part-time, I'm also working as an advanced mental health practitioner in GP surgeries, doing triage assessments for people struggling with mental health problems as well, which is helping a lot with the community, so that because GPs are already quite busy. GP is a term that we use in the UK, by the way, for general practitioners, aka doctors. So the graduation process is, again, as Shanti mentioned, the course was 12 months when I started in September. But if you start in January, then you'll finish in, like she said, next January. So this was my diploma. You have the same when you graduate. You have a lot of friends from different countries. On the left, these are my best friends. We're still talking. They are going to become my bridesmaids soon. So you do build great relationships with them. And after you finish your dissertation, you have to take that picture on the right, definitely. So that's definitely your proud moment after finishing your dissertation. As Shanti mentioned, again, that was a project. So you don't do like a full dissertation. At the time, we did our project as well. You do a lot of research, and you combine your information and whatever you gather from that research. So that was my research that I presented.
That's changed, Talia. So that has changed since you graduated. So we've removed the 5-paper review and made it as a more open research project. So now students have a choice of either doing a systematic literature review, which is more open, or they can do a project if there's something that's interesting that comes through. So that's changed since you graduated.
Yeah, that's good. I think at the time it was literature review for us, but I'd rather do the project, definitely. So that's a good bonus, I would say. Next slide, please, Nuria. Yeah. I also added some pictures from Bournemouth, because although there's the academic side of things, I'm not sure if it's still the same, but with the masters, we had Wednesdays and Thursdays for studies, and the rest of the time was for you to do your independent research, find a part-time position, and enjoy the city that you're in. So Bournemouth, as you can see, is a very touristic place. It's full of students, international students, and those are the pictures that I found from the area. Like, for example, the beach. There's a 7-mile long beach. It's a sandy beach. Especially I came from Istanbul, from a beachside city. So definitely, although I missed home, it kind of compensated it. You can see the town center here, and you can also see the nightlife is quite popular in Bournemouth as well. Thank you, Nuria. Next slide. Also
interrupt. So the course still does run on Wednesdays and Thursdays. That applies for all MSc programs.
That's good, perfect. And that gives you the chance to commute as well. If you're not living in Bournemouth, you have a longer weekend. So if you live in Southampton, let's say, if you choose to, that could be a great option as well. So these are some pictures from some of the touristic bits, like Corfe Castle, Durdledore, New Forest. So definitely you can visit those areas, especially because you're a student. You can get your student discount for some areas and for some transportation options. I would recommend signing up for uni days and also getting an NUS card, which would provide you student discounts, just to add to that. Next slide, please, Nuria. So the next bit I want to talk about briefly is the graduate visa, which was introduced last July. This is a great addition to your current visa, because if you apply for a master's, especially for September start, your visa would be for about 16 months. But after that, you have the opportunity to extend your visa for 2 more years, which gives you a chance to stay in the UK. You don't have to have a job before you apply for this visa. So right after you finish your master's, even if you're doing a placement or nothing else at all, you can apply for the graduate visa. That is a great addition, because if you're already working for a company and if you're having to leave the country, normally initially before you had to find a sponsorship, which is always very tricky. But if you already have this graduate route, you can simply extend your visa by 2 years, which gives the flexibility for you to do anything that you want to do in your field, ideally, and also gives the flexibility to your employer to have you for 2 years. And luckily, and hopefully by the end of that 2 years, they will already know you quite a lot. So they can even offer you the sponsorship, which is great. So this is something that you can look for. I think that's called the GIR route. If you check the UK visa website, the only condition is for you to finish your degree successfully, and also your current visa, the tier 4 student visa, to be valid before you apply for this visa. And again, if you don't have any criminal history or anything like that, it's a very straightforward visa. Normally, apparently, it takes about 3 days for you to get the visa. Unfortunately, in my case, it took 7 weeks. I'm a bit unlucky in that sense, but you should get it quickly. Thank you, Nuria. Next slide, please. If you want to find out more, as I said, I used to be a student ambassador. I'm not producing those videos anymore, but if you check YouTube, if you just type Talia Clinical Psychology, you'll see tons of my videos with my face on it, talking about the course and also the UK and budgeting and everything related to Bournemouth, really. So also we have an app called Unibuddy. So if you just go to Unibuddy and download the app, and then put clinical psychology, you can speak to someone who's currently doing the course or the other courses that Emily mentioned. You can find out all the psychology MSCs, and someone who's already doing the course will be there to answer your questions specifically, because I finished 3 years ago. I can't give you up-to-date answers, unfortunately, but if you have any questions specific to my experience, again, please put it in the questions box, so I'll be answering them as well. Thank you. Yeah, just like I said, and like everyone said, there are lots of options available. My recommendation is always be assertive, always talk to your lecturers, ask for placements. At the time, like I said, it wasn't available placement option for me, but I did go and speak to Helen, and they keep sending you emails about upcoming placement options, research opportunities. So always put your interest and put your CV, and enjoy the university life. It's very international. Go meet international students, not just Turkish students. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And sorry about your slides. I didn't realize that there were so many transitions in your slides.
Yeah.
Let me close this. Let's see if I can come back to the to you. No. Okay, here. I'm not sure. I'm still sharing my screen.
No, we can.
Okay. So, so I will have like two different screens. So thank you ever so much. It's been really interesting. I'm sure that our students today are really lucky with all the information that they can get from teachers, obviously academics that are teaching in the programs, and it's been fantastic, listening to you and to find out more with so much detail about the programs, the content, the opportunities available, for the students. And Talia, thank you ever so much as well for sharing your experiences. And I'm unsure if the students could only, be talking to us, they will definitely appreciate this. I think we have quite a few questions, and I.
I think we answered majority of them.
Okay, I'm just going through some of them. If there is anything that you can see that hasn't been answered,
There's only one, Nuria, which talks about transference, which
Mm.
I think you can't transfer, because they asked a question, can they transfer master? So I said, I don't think you can.
No, we can only accept the students if we have a partnership contract.
Yeah, that's what I
in a
mentioned.
specific.
So,
And
so we don't do that for psychology. So I said, no, sorry.
No, sorry. Thank you.
I need to go to another meeting, Nuria.
Yeah.
It was lovely to talk to all of you. Are we almost done, or?
Yes, I'm just going to just make sure that everything is done. But if you need to leave, please do so, because probably if we have any more questions, it will be general questions as well. So I'm happy to answer. And so thank you very so much, Shanti, for being with us today. I know that you have a very busy schedule, so it's really appreciated your time. And as I said,
It's always been a pleasure to talk to you all, and I look forward to students coming in. And yep, the only point is, don't hesitate if you're finding statistics and English difficult, which I do know some of you all find. Talk to us about it. We're here to support you. If you don't tell me that you're finding it difficult, there's no way I can support you with it. So within the university, we have all the support that's required. So the more you come and talk to us, the better we can enable your experience to be a fun learning experience. And as Talia said, it is up to you to make that responsibility, take that motivation, and ensure that you learn more. So placement, research, opportunities we can provide. But if you don't have that motivation, if you're not dedicated, then there's no way we can give you an enhanced experience. And I'm sure you'll find your way wherever you are. But all the very best, and hope to see some or most of you this year or next year. Take care.
Thank you very much, Shanti. Very good advice. Thank you, Shanti.
Bye.
Bye. I just didn't realize that it's already 3:00, and Talia and Emily, we have answered all the questions. I think probably it will be the end of our session. So with this, I just want to thank as well all the students from being from engaging with us and for watching us today. You have my email, and so please, if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me directly, and I will be happy to answer anything that you may have, or I can liaise with the academics if there are specific questions about their courses as well. So Emily and Talia, thank you ever so much for participating today and for your time as well. So I'm sure that the students will be very happy about this session and getting the information that they needed. Thank you for some fantastic presentations. Zeynep, it's all yours if you want to close the session.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Nuria, Emily, Shanti, and Talia. It was a very informative session for the attendees, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too. And also I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Psikoloji yüksek lisans programlarıyla ilgili diğer sorularınız için Nuriye'ye mail adresinden ulaşabilirsiniz. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you, Zeynep, and thank you for organizing this for us. Yeah, bye-bye now. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.